And this is where we'll get all of our blocks from. They're color coded, which means if we want to do anything to do with motion, we can look at the blue blocks. We've got ones for looks as well, so we can get Scratch to say hello if we'd like. And we can have events to say when the green flag is clicked. And maybe I'll just make it bigger so that everybody can see the blocks I'm using. We click the green flag, Scratch can say hello for us. So this area here, guys, this big grey area is our script arena. This is what we're going to be doing for all of our code. We'll be dragging and dropping the blocks into this part of the screen here, and that's where we'll be able to see our code working. So let's take a few moments just to create a quick project and get you back into then learning more about Scratch. We can drag a forever block in to get him to say hello forever. And now hello will never leave the screen. But we can also use an if block to say if something has happened, then we can say hello. And as you can see, I'm using a couple of different blocks here. We'll be explaining them a little bit more tomorrow. Where we have a little block carved out here that this one will stretch and fit inside of. And we can use our drop down arrow to say the mouse pointer as well. So what I'm creating here, guys, is a game called Cat and Mouse, where I'm going to use the mouse to be chased by the cat. And to do that, I'm going to use my motion blocks as well. I'm going to say we're going to move 10 steps and point towards the mouse. And instead of saying hello, I'll say got you. So now we have our Scratch Cat saying I got you. And we have a little fun game of cat and mouse with only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks of code. So that would be, if you want to make him walk off the edge, you can indeed. Just make him walk straight in a straight line using our move 10 steps. Let's see, we'll do another block here just to test it. We use a forever block and say move 10 steps. And there we go, he's walking away off the stage. If we want to come back, we get him to follow the mouse and drag him all the way back into the project. If you guys are thinking this is really easy stuff, this is for beginners. The first 2 lessons is just to make sure that everybody knows what Scratch is, how to use it, and to familiar yourselves with the lessons. As we go on in week 2 and week 3, it's going to get a little bit more complicated each week, so hang in there. If you think this today is just a little too easy, we'll get into some of the more complicated stuff now. So let's think about making our own project after this lesson. Let's get a character, or a sprite, and get them to answer a question for us. We can say, what game character is most like you, and why? Maybe you want to do a little piece about your favorite game or your app. Or maybe you want to answer the question, do you think kids should play more or fewer games, and why? What I'm going to do next, guys, is I'm going to answer one of these questions. So let's see which question we should answer. I'm going to just open up another poll and find out which of these 3 questions you think I should answer. Oops, apologies for that. Pressed the wrong button there. Now, the poll should be live on the screen there, and you guys can answer whichever question you think I should be answering tonight. And then we'll get talking a little bit more about sprites and how to create them ourselves. Okay, it looks like 74% of you guys have voted. It's going up, so we're getting the last few stragglers who haven't voted yet. And we're going to close the poll now in 3, 2, 1. It looks like number 3 is 1. So I'll be answering questions. Oops, let me see what's happening here. My slides just seem to have died on me. There they are. Do you think kids should play more or fewer games, and why? Brilliant. Now guys, if you want to answer any one of these questions, you can. Today I'm going to just answer this question because this is the one we've most voted on. And before we get into it, let's have a look at creating sprites. So now we're going to have a look at our sprites. And sprites are movable pictures in a 2D game. So like we've seen with Scratch the Cat, you can create whatever sprites you'd like, whether it's Iron Man or Doctor Who or Crash Bandicoot. You can have any type of sprites you want. If you look in the picture there, I also have a sprite for the sonic screwdriver. I also have a sprite for the TARDIS. So you have to remember that they're not just characters, they're any movable picture that you want to use in a game. So what we're going to get you guys to do is add your sprites to the studio as well. And these guys are all of the sprites that I have made in the past. So if you want to have a look at some of them and maybe use some of them for yourself, I'm just going to copy this link here because I've shared my project, and I'm going to drop it into the chat box for everybody just to have a link to, and they'll be able to access it then after the lesson. And now they can have a look at making our favorite game. So if we click on the C inside project, we'll go back into our project, and you guys can create a brand new one if you'd like. I'm not going to use the Scratch for this one, so I'm going to right click on Scratch and just hit delete because we don't need the Scratch cat for this project. And there's a nice little secret handy trick that I'll be using from time to time where you can take code from other projects and just throw them in, and this is called the backpack. So here I have my character Crash, and it's Crash Bandicoot from the games, and I'm going to be asking him to tell us why we think kids should play more or less games. And well, for me, I think that kids should be playing more games. So that's what I'm going to get Crash to say. So now we have, when the green flag is clicked, we can say kids should play lots of games. And Scratch can do that for us. Oh, lots is without an apostrophe, so it looks like everybody here is a grammar Nazi. That's fine. And I'm just thinking that our background looks a little bit boring, so I'll go into my backdrops. I'm going to change it. And if I scroll down a little bit, you guys can have a look to see all of the projects, all of the backgrounds you can have. Maybe we'll use our school one for this part. And we can add another say block to say why we think kids should play lots of games. Well, I think kids should play lots of games so that they can learn about lots of different things, like learning how to react to games. So when something happens, you need hand-eye coordination. Maybe you want to learn about different themes that games sometimes portray. So maybe you want to learn about something that people haven't had a chance to talk about, maybe new forms of expression. And now we'll just make sure that Scratch is making sense, or Crash is making sense when he talks. So kids should play lots of games, learn about hand-eye coordination or new forms of expression. And then when we click our green flag, we'll get to see Scratch saying all of these things. Learn about new strategies as well from Ahmed, so let's put that one in too. Let's type in what you guys think as well. And we can add them all to our project. Oh, strategies. Kids should play more games because you want to be a surgeon, and of course hand-eye coordination. Oh, and coding. Steven's saying learn how to steal cars in GTA. Maybe you're probably a little bit old for playing, or maybe you're a little too young to be playing GTA, or else you're a little bit too old for this course. And get a more entertaining life from some of the other kids as well. So let's put this one in too. Loads of things we can say. Logical thinking, that's a great one from Brooke as well. So let's say we'll use our think block for this one. Let's say and loads of different things we can do, but we don't have to just say and think when we want to talk. We can also use our motion block to move as well. So we can tell Crash to jump around, we can tell him to move. Let's say we use a repeat block. We can get him to move 10 steps. In fact, let's not get him to move. Well, I'll get him to move afterwards, and then what we can do is use another repeat block to make him do a nice flip as well. I'll get him to move 36 degrees. We'll do that 10 times. We should have a bit of fun with what he's doing. So as we can see, Crash is now talking about all the things we just told him to say, and he's saying exactly what we told him to. So if I've done any spelling errors, they'll show up in my project. And now we get to see Scratch moving, and unfortunately he seems to be just moving left and right. The reason for that could be because we have our set rotation style left to right. If we put that at the top, we can say all around, and if we run the project again, we should be able to see it. So how do we send the game? It's a good question, Danny. Now we'll get into that just in a few moments time. And unfortunately he didn't move at all now. Oh dear. So I'll have to work on that one just outside the lesson, guys, and make sure I understand why Crash isn't moving. But maybe you guys can figure it out and send it in to me with your projects. Oh, he did a flip. Oh, sorry. This is what I get for looking at questions instead of the screen. Okay. Let's have a look at the Akuaku Mask, because this is one I didn't show everybody in the last time I was teaching this course. I did show everybody how to make their own sprites, just like I did with Crash. It's very easy to make your own sprites. So here is a little bit of a test run for you guys. Hope you guys can see. Maybe he's a little bit too small, but here's my Akuaku Mask. And if we go to my costumes, I'm just going to zoom in so you can see what I've done. Whoa, maybe a little bit too far. So what I did, guys, is I got my picture. And let's have one more look at it, of the hammer beads, which is very good for 8-bit drawings. So you have your hammer beads and you can count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row. And then I just went into my paint editor and I did 1, 2, 3 and 4. And I just went around and added all the black bits in together. Then once I'd finished doing the black bits, I was able to use the paint bucket to select the colors I wanted to use. Filled them out a little bit more just so you can have a look at it, and I can use the paint bucket now just to colour him in a little bit more. And we can see he's starting to form. Then of course you add in the little details for his face, maybe add some shading in as well. And now finally we have our Akuaku Mask, which is ready to go. The only thing is he's a bit small, so now we can see this select tool here, and we can draw a little rectangle around him. And now we can stretch him out to make him absolutely massive. And when we click off to the corner, we'll see Akuaku growing in size here. But perhaps now we've made him a little bit too big. So we'll just add some code to make him smaller. We can use our green flag and say, let's set the size to maybe 50%. But we don't have to just let Akuaku sit there and do nothing. We can also tell him to move around the screen too. So let's see if we set our rotation style again to left and right. Just bear with me while we come up with some code here. We can use our forever block and tell him to float around the screen. So maybe we'll just get him to move 5 steps. And we can change the value by just typing in whichever value we'd like, just like we did with the say blocks. And we can use our if on the edge block. We can bounce off the screen. So now when we click run, you can see Akuaku bouncing around. And not going to be great if he just goes back and forth left and right. So maybe we'll add a turn 15 degrees in there just before he starts. And now poor Crash is upside down when he goes to spin. So that's a bug in my code. He really needs to be standing up straight when he starts. So what I'll do is I'll put my point in the direction of 90 degrees. And maybe I'll move him back over to here when he starts. Okay, so that's enough of what I'm just messing around in Scratch at this point. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Let's see if you guys have any questions. Apparently I'm talking like a Stampy Longhead. Oh dear. Can can you put the mask on his face from Amarth? Or, sorry, Amarnath? And yes, you can if you want to change the code. I'm just going to break the code here for a moment. Hit my stop button. And we can tell it to go to his face by using our go to. Instead of saying our mouse pointer, we can say crash. Now it might send him to the middle of crash. So we can tell him to go to crash and then change Y. And of course you can make Akuaku's mask a lot bigger as well so that it covers his face entirely. Maybe you want to set the size then back to 100%. And there he is. If you guys want to do more code, you can add code all the time to get it to do lots of things. For the moment, I'm just going to let my Akuaku mask float around the screen. Maybe set it back to 50% just so that he's not taking up all of the screen. Now, the next thing we need to look at is, what are we doing here? Well, we're controlling the project using the sprites. So we have our code for crash. Let's just move crash back to the start before he runs off the screen. So when crash starts moving, when our green flag is clicked, we can tell him to do all of these things here. And when Akuaku starts moving, when the green flag is clicked, we can give him different instructions to do different things. So don't worry if you don't follow everything that we've done in today's lesson. Today's only the first lesson. We'll be explaining more about the code that we've just used today in the next lesson. So let's have a look and we'll just take a quick break